Hi there, and welcome to The Daily Gardener, an almanac of garden history, literature, and small botanical joys. I'm Jennifer Ebeling, and today is February 20th. Every garden carries a quiet tension, wildness, and order. What grows where it pleases, and what we can ask to grow where we can reach it. Today's stories belong to people who lived inside that tension, collecting, classifying, shaping, preserving, trying to understand the living world without draining it of wonder. Here's today's garden history. It was on this day in 1742 that Joseph Dombey was born. Joseph lived in the Age of Enlightenment, that hungry era when Europe wanted the world's plants named, measured, and brought home. Beginning in 1778, he traveled through Peru and Chile, collecting what no European garden yet held: pressed specimens, notes, and seeds, a botanical life gathered into paper and ink. Joseph also had a nose for plants with promise. One of them was lemon verbena, Aloysia citrodora. And here's the part of the story that gardeners love. When Joseph returned to Europe, his living collection was seized by customs and left to languish. Most of it died, but one lemon verbena survived. Just one. And when it was finally returned to him, Joseph gently kept it alive. That single plant became a beginning, the mother plant of the lemon verbena that would move through European gardens and eventually into ours. Joseph's work stirred admiration and resentment. His collections sparked diplomatic disputes, the kind of tension that gathers around anything valuable. And yet, he was also remembered for kindness. During outbreaks of illness in Chile, he treated the sick without charge. A botanist who didn't only collect life, he tried to preserve it. In 1793, Joseph set out on his final voyage, this time not for plants, but for science itself. He was tasked with delivering 2 prototypes of a new French measuring system to Thomas Jefferson in America: a copper rod exactly 1 meter long and a copper cylinder weighing 1 kilogram. The future of measurement packed into metal. But Joseph never arrived. The storm blew his ship south into the Caribbean. Privateers boarded it. Joseph was taken prisoner and confined on the volcanic island of Montserrat, southwest of Antigua. He died there a month later at the age of 52. Today, that copper kilogram rests at the National Institute of Standards and Technology in Maryland. And the lemony fragrance of verbena still lingers on gardeners' fingertips. A quiet inheritance of survival. And it was on this day, in 1868, that John Christopher Willis was born. John served as director of 2 major botanic gardens. But early in his career, while working in Ceylon in 1905, he suffered an injury that damaged his optic nerve and ended his days of botanical exploration. Good vision is essential to botanical fieldwork. Jungles are dim, dense places. Plants demand close, careful seeing. John's work moved indoors to desks, to books, to data. From Rio de Janeiro to Cambridge, and eventually to Montreux, Switzerland, where he entered semi-retirement. Ironically, it was the loss of his physical sight that sharpened his intellectual vision. By studying vast collections of records instead of individual plants, John began to see patterns. He asked, how do plants spread? Why do some remain local while others seem to be everywhere? His age and area idea was simple. The longer a species has existed, the more time it has had to move, and the farther it may have traveled. Botanists debated him. They pushed back. But gardeners still recognized the truth beneath it. Every familiar plant carries a history of movement, a journey, a slow expansion, seed by seed, root by root. John's most enduring legacy came not from theory, but from usefulness. His manual and dictionary of the flowering plants and ferns became a constant companion on desks and shelves. Not a book for showing off, a book for looking things up, for getting unstuck, for turning confusion into clarity. Today, John is remembered in the plant genus Willisia, a group of rare aquatic plants, so unusual they actually resemble mosses or lichens more than flowering plants. Joseph Dombey carried the wild home. John tried to understand how the wild traveled. Different lives, same impulse, to make the living world legible without making it smaller. In today's Unearthed Words, we hear from Ansel Adams, born on this day in 1902. Ansel wrote, "The whole world is, to me, very much alive, all the little growing things. I can't look at a swell bit of grass and earth without feeling the essential life, the things going on within them." Ansel found sanctuary in nature, and there's a small garden moment woven quietly into his story. When he was 4 years old, Ansel was playing in his family's San Francisco garden when the great earthquake struck. As he ran toward the house, an aftershock threw him against a low brick wall. He broke his nose. It was never repaired. And for the rest of his life, Ansel called it his earthquake nose. The injury pushed him far away from crowds and closer toward places that did not judge, toward the steady patience of the natural world. Nature once again as refuge. It's time to grow that garden library with today's book, Pioneers of American Landscape Design by Charles Benbaum and Robin Carson. This book profiles the designers who shaped how America thinks about landscapes, not just as decoration, but as structure, intention, and public good. It introduces the people behind parks, estates, campuses, and civic spaces still walked today. Reading it, a gardener begins to notice things. Why paths curve, why views open, why some places feel calm without our knowing why. It's a book that gives names to things we already sense and helps us see gardens as cultural memory set into land. And finally, here's something sweet to ignite the little botanic spark in your heart. It was on this day in 1884 that Robert Wheelwright was born. Robert helped shape landscape architecture into the modern profession we recognize today. He believed gardens could be designed like rooms, with entrances, pauses, and intention. Brick paths, clipped edges, open greens, sheltered corners. A kind of order that felt human rather than rigid. He was a master of historic landscape restoration and a strong defender of public space, including efforts to protect Central Park. One of his most lasting projects became personal. When Good Stay Gardens in Delaware was gifted to Ellen DuPont Coleman Meads by her father, she hired Robert to restore the Tudor garden, organized into 6 outdoor rooms. They worked side by side for 17 years. In 1937, they married. Good Stay became their shared home for more than 3 decades. After Ellen's death, the garden was given to the University of Delaware, where it is still used for teaching today. A gifted space, a garden that began as a commission and became a shared life, and a lasting legacy. Design turning into devotion. Robert once argued that landscape architecture was a fine art meant to refresh and calm people worn down by modern life. And a gardener hears that and thinks, yes. As we close the show today, remember, keep looking at your garden, its wild edges, and the places shaped for rest. Patterns are always expanding, and there is always more to learn. For both the garden and the gardener, sometimes it's simply about having time to grow. Thanks for listening to The Daily Gardener. And remember, for a happy, healthy life, garden every day.